All right. So we have a wonderful panel discussion. I'm just going to go ahead and introduce them by name, and then I'm going to give them a chance to introduce themselves, their experience, what are they doing now as Catholic homeschoolers, so on and so forth. So we'll start from the top, not so much in the camera view, but in from the list view you see here. We have Claudio and Jamie Salvucci, or Jamie and Claudio Salvucci. Um, and we have Sam and Eleanor Nicholson and Jenny Bales. Sam and Eleanor, I don't know why I included on separate line items there, but you guys they are married, as you might imagine. And Jenny Bales is also with us today. So we're very glad to have all of you with us. So let's start with Jamie and Claudio. Could you take a moment to introduce yourself and tell us about what you're doing in homeschooling and so on and so forth, and we'll kind of feed off of that.
Okay. Go ahead, Claudio.
She wants me to go first, even though I'm the useless member of the homeschool team here.
Well, she's saving the better for last. Okay, so Claudio,
I guess so. So she calls me the superintendent of our little homeschool. So I'm a useless administrator. I just breeze in and breeze out, and she does all the work. So, but yeah, we've been homeschooling for how many years now?
Like 13. We have our first graduate this year.
Yeah, 13. First one off to college now. He's going to Lehigh University, so we're happy about that. I've been involved in the publishing industry for a long time, so I work for a living. I mostly. Right now, I'm communications director for the Priestly Fraternity of St. Peter, and I also do my own publishing stuff on the side with Ancilla Press. Do prayer books and ARCS Publishing that we do books for homeschoolers. So I'm kind of even though I've not done much of the teaching myself, I've been involved in this world for quite a long time. And then once in a while, I'll get my kids in like a rant or a weird discussion about something that is completely it's just in my field of academic interest, and that the kids are for some reason interested in, that are not covered in any homeschool curriculum, but they seem to enjoy those little discussions every once in a while. So
thank you, Claudio. Jamie?
But she does all the actual work, so I'll
let's hear from the workhorse, so to speak.
Yeah. I'm Jamie Salvucci. We have 5 kids. They've all been homeschooled from the beginning. We have our first graduate, as I said. He got into a pretty good school, so I'm definitely taking the credit. Like,
as you should, by the way. As you should.
So yeah, it was almost as exciting for me as for him. I will admit, and he's my only boy. Then I have 4 girls. We've basically done it all. We've had great years and terrible years, and sick babies in the mix, and pregnancies, and a little bit of everything. I don't know what else. I was a music teacher before I had kids, so sort of in education. I don't know. I was like a fake teacher. I feel like I taught band. And we live in Pennsylvania. That's about it. I don't know what else to share.
That's a great starting point. That's a great starting point. Wonderful. Thank you very much. Let's go to Eleanor and Sam. Or Sam and Eleanor.
I've been asked to go first. So I'm Sam Nicholson. I teach philosophy and logic for Homeschool Connections. And my day job is I'm a facilities manager at our parish. So we have a large Dominican parish here in Charlottesville. I run the facility. And I'm a former college professor. So I taught in academia for about 9 years and then switched careers. And we've been homeschooling our kids for as long as we've had them. And we have 6 kids, 4 of which are homeschool aged. And we take turns, and Eleanor does the bulk of the day-to-day hands-on stuff with the kids. And I come in to help and assist as needed.
And I would say our children are age 13 to 6 months. I count all 6 of them as homeschooling age, frankly. Teaching this guy how to, talk, interact, socialize is part of homeschooling. But I'm also a graduated homeschooler. My mother homeschooled the 6 of us back in the 80s and 90s when there weren't really a lot of Catholic resources. They were starting to grow. Thank you, Seton, you saved us, and Colby Academy. So loved homeschooling as a child, and thrilled to be able to homeschool our own children. Also teach for Homeschool Connections, been doing that since 2017. Teach high school literature. But no, we love homeschooling. Love, love, love the freedom of the life. Wouldn't do anything else.
Thank you, Sam and Eleanor, and Jenny Bales.
Hello. Thanks, Walter. Thanks for having me. Great to see everyone. My husband couldn't be here today, but he would be. He's a big, huge supporter of homeschooling. So now, we just finished our 18th year homeschooling. So definitely in the beginning, he was not as confident, and we've gotten there. But we have 4 kids that we've homeschooled. Plan is K through 12. 2 of them have graduated and are in college now. So we did that despite ourselves. And yeah, we've just homeschooled since the beginning. I personally kind of love like sit around and read books and very casual, relaxed literature homeschooling. But my kids each needed something different. So I say my homeschool philosophy is whatever works. And I help other families figure out what works for their unique family at my Heart of a Mother support organization. So homeschooling has just been a huge blessing in our lives. And I'm really excited to be able to share with anybody who will listen that it's made me a better person. And I think maybe my kids are okay too.
Well, knowing Jenny and knowing the fact that, because I know her kids, we live adjacent to one another, close to one another, and we go to the same parish. I can attest to the fact that her kids are very, very solid.
They're okay.
They're doing pretty good. Yeah, they're doing pretty good. They came out normal.
Right.
Above normal, I would even argue. So very good. All right, so here's a question I think that pertains to all of you, and we'll just kind of start from the same way we started. So in terms of who's going to answer what. So here's a question for you. How do you balance chores, errands, appointments, extracurricular activities along with homeschooling? So is there some kind of equation that you follow? I have a funny feeling I know where this is going, but I'd love to hear from you guys. Is there some mechanism that maybe I'll ask it this way. Do you assign any particular responsibilities to one or another persons or parties to help you balance it out? Let me just start there, and then y'all kind of fill in the blanks. So that would start off with Jamie and Claudia.
Okay. So I mean, yes, my kids have daily chores, kitchen chores that rotate. I mean, it's not the only thing they do, but like those things need to get done. Like empty the dishwasher every day, set the table every day. With that extracurricular, the thing that's always worked for us is, and for us it's mostly music lessons, and that kind of stuff, is to have a day of the week that we do that. So it's not like in and out every day. You want to be home to homeschool as much as possible, at least for us. So like Monday is our music lesson day generally. And so we would have our lightest school day that day, and the whole afternoon basically is out to music lessons. Luckily, the 2 music teachers we have are now in the same building just by luck. So that has worked out really nicely for us. But yeah. And in terms of balance, I mean, I feel like something's always not getting done, and you kind of have to come to peace with that a little bit. I mean, the house is often a mess, the laundry's often behind. But I mean, I always say, make sure you know your kids' hearts, that your kids know you're loved, they're getting educated, and then everything else comes after that for us.
Thank you. Good. Sam, Eleanor?
Our children, yes, are very engaged with the chores because they have to be. But a lot of the balancing for us comes from a simple schedule, a very simple schedule. Like Jamie was just saying, we have one day that is our piano day. And on piano day, we know that during the piano lesson, the children who are not in piano are out in the car with me doing schoolwork, or we're going for a walk, or we're going to the library. So we try to structure various things that need to be done around the day when we're out. We also both work for our parish. So one day a week, I usually work from home, but one day a week we're at a staff meeting. Well, the staff meeting day, school looks a little bit different. But in terms of the house, I'd agree with Jamie. There has to be a sense that they are buying in and that they're committed and that they're participants and contributors, because you live in this household, you're going to be part of this household and have responsibility for the running of this household because we can't do everything and we're not your slaves. But even with that, and they do tell us that all they do is work. Our house is frequently a mess. So
Yep.
for mothers who are losing their minds, know that I often am too, when the house is in disarray, but recognizing the small victories, recognizing the elements of cleaning and tidying and chores that keep it running, not keep it an Ethan Allen showroom.
And I should say that even though we have a very we've allowed a kind of organic structure to emerge in our household where we sort of know what our kids' strengths and weaknesses are and what we can expect of them, we do have certain things that are non-negotiable. So we are going to have family dinner at a certain time. We are going to say family rosary immediately afterwards. There are certain rooms that must be cleaned to mommy's satisfaction before we progress to any evening leisure time. And we're to the point now where even if we don't get the house into inspection-worthy shape, you might say, the kids have the expectation that is starting to become automatic that this is how we do things. And there is a certain structure, even though we've never made it explicit in terms of a set of rules that we've got to do it at this time, we have to do this thing at this other time. And it just kind of emerges sort of organically. And I'll just share two tidbits, one of which came out of good advice that I got in confession the other day. I won't tell you what my sins were, but the advice that I got there was really good. He said, one of the transitions and the things that's different from being an academic as opposed to being just an adult in the real world is that you just have to learn to be comfortable with things that are in an incomplete and unfinished state. And when you're, sort of working the kind of job that I did previously, where I was a college professor, there was a beginning, a middle, and an end of the semester, and then you had summer, and everything was done. All your I's were dotted, all your T's were crossed, and you were done. There are days when our house is not what we want it to look like, where we'd be embarrassed to have people over, but we just have to acknowledge that have we done everything that we could reasonably be expected to do? Are we still fulfilling our obligations to prayer, to spending time reading, doing our spiritual, is our spiritual house in order? And if that's the case, we just have to learn to say, okay, we're going to wash that last stack of dishes in the morning, and we're just going to have to learn to be okay.
We often leave dishes in the sink. Having the sink empty at the end of the day is not my priority. I mean, I hope to have them, but it's not always.
I think once a day. The sink empty once
Yes.
a day gives me joy.
Yes. Yep. Yep. After one of the meals, it's usually, yes, exactly right.
It's good to hear so much commonality. Jenny, do you want to weigh in on this?
Yeah, they've said a lot of the things I would say just to kind of highlight the key points. I think the bottom line is it's about realistic expectations. If you're homeschooling and you're home most of the day, that means you're using the house. So there's very few times when everything's going to be perfect, as the Ethan Allen reference. So I think part of it is setting those realistic expectations. I liked what Sam said about knowing what each person's priorities are and what their sensitivities are. It's a great tool to ask your spouse, like, what is the one area of tidiness or cleanliness that is your priority? Or is there, is it laundry or is it this or that? So that you can kind of work together to create the peaceful environment that you need, even though it's not going to be perfect. And as far as the kids, it's definitely about routines. It's about setting up baby steps from when they're young and getting started and including them. And they can help. They're not going to do it the way you want them to do it, but just the act of trying, even if you have to go back and do it again after they did it, will build in them those skills and that sense of belonging, that sense of community. Because when we live in community as a family, pitching in and helping is part of that. But I loved just, to finish what Jamie said at the beginning, like, we don't balance. There's not a perfect balance. We're always swinging one way to the other, right? And this area will get better, and then this area will get worse, and this area will get better, and it switches around. And that is balance, because we are at least not ignoring any one thing for too long. But it's never, it's not finding that perfect medium, and whether that's chores or schooling or anything really, work.
There are those rare occasions when you do have that ideal day, right? And
Rare.
It doesn't happen often, but it kind of reminds me of golf. When you're playing golf and you hit that one ball the perfect way, the perfect time, perfect distance, everything, and you're like, oh my gosh, that was amazing. And that's what brings you back. It's like you had that one good day, that one good drive, or whatever it might be. Kind of makes me think of that as you're talking about it. So here's another question that came in. What do you say to a mom who's teaching this? I think it's for everybody, but so maybe we can collaborate and brainstorm here. What do you say to a mom who's teaching multiple children, but the second oldest is ADHD and resists almost all schooling? We tried many curriculums. His school load should be done within 2 hours or less, and he can make it the entire day, preventing time to do it. The oldest child and younger children, currently finishing 5th and 2nd grade. So I think it's the oldest child they're talking about, a second oldest child. So I don't know which one is in question here, but do y'all have any suggestions on how to handle that? Or do you? And this is a free for all, so anyone want to jump in on that?
Yeah, I can. I have an ADHD kiddo, so I can speak to that. Just a quick note, Walter, a couple people have asked to come out of the shared screen because our videos are really tiny, if you're able to do that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sure. Yeah. Sorry.
I know I'm trying to like squint and see all the faces.
My bad. Yeah, there you go. Sorry.
Yay!
Good
No,
call.
no problem. But yeah, I think that you've already figured out it's not about the curriculum, right? It's about this student needs skills that this student doesn't have. And that's a trick with any neurodiverse child, that they need to figure out those skills. And there's lots of resources online. There's lots of therapists that are resources to help figure out what are those skills that they're lacking. And that resistance is probably part of the diagnosis, right? That resistance. And so there's lots of different approaches to empower the student to make decisions about what they're doing and when they're doing within your good boundaries and your good, wisdom, and motivating them appropriately. So you're probably, again, like Walter said, I'm guessing the 5th grader, you're kind of getting into that part where schooling is harder once they get past, 4th or 5th grade, and they're reacting to that because their maturity isn't there yet. Some of it just takes time. I know with mine, it was like, okay, it's just going to take a lot longer to develop this skill of sitting and working than with my other kids. So we'd have to, shorten the lessons and rejoice when a short bit was done while they were growing and maturing and building those executive functioning skills. That's my short answer.
Great.
And I would add to that, Jenny, we don't have that specific struggle with our children, but I was saying to my mother yesterday on a long walk, saying so much of homeschooling, I feel, is just giving them the tools to function in this world. Yes, to function well as adults, and we hope to be joy-filled. I mean, of course, we are very happy if a child does well academically, but that is so low on the scale of why we homeschool, what we care about, that they be joy-filled, that they be faithful to the gospel. That's what we want. So in the end of the day, going, oh my goodness, that was a terrible math lesson where I'm not even sure our relationship is like on the rocks after that, taking a deep breath and saying, how can we grow from a difficult encounter between student and teacher, mother and child, or father and child, although they always respond better to him. When I pull out the daddy's going to do your math lesson, all of a sudden their math brains turn on and they're engaged. It's great having that in my, the arsenal. Toolbox, not arsenal. Toolbox is the best. Toolbox.
We understand.
But then just remind yourself why you do it. And every parent, when you have struggles with a child, when a child rebels, and it's not just the neurodivergent who rebel in 5th grade, that we're doing this is because we want you to be a saint. I want you to be a saint. And that helps me renew my perspective on the days where I go, wow, this isn't working. So that then I can say, let's try something different. And I can't tell you how many times, not just curriculum, just the approach has to be completely different. Maybe the time of day has to be different. Maybe I'll call my mother, and who, as I said, has experience as a homeschooler, and she'll say, send her outside and tell her to run around the house 10 times. Yep. Comes back in, better math lesson.
Better.
Yeah. Has he eaten protein? That's what Sam will say. Has he eaten protein? Better math lesson. So just recognizing those sorts of elements can be very helpful too.
I think a key to that is kind of what you're saying, is that concept that behavior is communication. The child can't communicate what's going on internally, but they're behavior is communicating something to us. It's not just behavior. It's not just that rebellion, but
And
yeah.
I would add that you'd be surprised at how much, just by dialogue with your students and your kids and whatnot, how much they pick up, how to speak, how to engage, how to approach, how to make eye contact. A lot of the things that a lot of students struggle with just in day-to-day responsibilities because they don't get that in, say, the traditional school. You know, they're clowning on with their peers and whatnot, and those are fine things. I'm not disparaging them. I'm just saying that when they engage adults frequently, it's amazing how much they put that on when they're engaging other adults. We've gotten my son who plays, well, he's I think 11 at the time. We're in a homeschool basketball association, and one of the other dads approached him and said, "Look, this is independent of, or not even part of the basketball group, but anyway, he approached him and said, you know, started talking with my 10-year-old at the time, and he was so impressed by how he engaged him, like made eye contact. He called him sir and mister and things like that, so respectful, and he was quick to let me know about that, you know, and so I think the fact that we're just engaging them on a day-to-day basis and encouraging them to be virtuous and charitable and compassionate, those things are almost greater than almost anything else we could teach them. So sorry, that was my ad. I'm not a panelist, but all right. All right, wonderful, wonderful questions and wonderful response. See, there's a lot of things going on in the chat, so
Yeah.
keep it coming, everybody. So another question came in. Let me see if I can make sure I got this one. Okay, how do you prioritize religious faith, religious education and faith formation in your homeschool day? How do you plot out your curriculum scope? This is a big question. Specifically making curriculum driven, which ones versus just living, learning, and all. Feels like it could take up my entire school day if I did all I could with the great sources out there. You're right, Tracy. It probably would. So I'd love to hear from you guys. What do you think?
I would say in the way that we teach and the way that our curriculum is structured, there's no sense at any point that we're studying something that's isolated from religious instruction. I mean, the conversations in our household invariably dovetail back to something that touches upon scripture or moral theology or the practice of the faith. And so whether we're doing science or math or anything, we just kind of casually discuss it as though it's all just one seamless reality. And so I don't think our kids would ever come away with the sense that, well, there's this religious stuff that belongs in this box over here and is quarantined from all the other items of knowledge. And then there's the real learning that's over here. I mean, I think it is just so thoroughly Catholic, their understanding of how everything works. There's no sort of need for us to sort of find a way to edge the religious instruction in.
Yeah, I would say pretty much exactly the same thing. I actually don't worry too much about our religion curriculum, especially if it's a year the kids are receiving a sacrament, because then they also get stuff at the parish. But I mean, we're living a Catholic life. We are using a Catholic curriculum. So it's just part of everything we do as a family and everything they're learning. Sometimes we use curriculum for religion, sometimes we don't. It just depends on the year and the kid, and what they need so much. But I mean, my kids are fully Catholic, like you would know it in about 2 seconds talking to them. So yeah, in the same way, it's just part of everything we're doing in life. So it's not a huge focus as a subject for us.
Yeah, I mean, I love the what is it, Catholic it's popularized by, I'll have to think of it. Oh my goodness, I can see her face. Anyway, I'll think of it here in a little bit. But she talks about the liturgical year and following
yeah.
what's
Catholic
that?
all year.
Is it, yeah, Kendra Tierney.
Kendra
Although she's
Tierney,
not
thank
Tierney,
you.
she's remarried now.
That's right.
But
She
yeah,
just remarried. Yeah. Her husband passed away, so
Yes.
she remarried. Yeah. And wonderful thing. And it's the whole idea is premised on the fact that you are looking at the Catholic throughout, you're celebrating the holy days,
The
obviously
seasons of the
saying
church. Yep.
seasons of the church. I just love that approach because you're learning so much about what it means to be Catholic in the moment from one day to the next, and it's always changing. It's dynamic. So there's that aspect, something to consider if y'all haven't considered that as a means to facilitate religious ed. So,
Put your
This
website
I
is
in.
posted the link
huge. I
in
mean,
the chat.
okay, great.
thank you. This is huge because before we started homeschooling, and the kids are too little. You can't. What are you going to talk about the monothelite heresy with a kid? You just can't do it. But come Advent, Advent one comes up and the Presepio, the Nativity goes up. Gaudete Sunday comes up and it's the Christmas tree. And then like it just goes through the year, and we haven't been as good about it. I mean, like Advent and Christmas seem well, we do St. Lucie Day actually.
Yeah.
But it's so important to keep these feasts, and even if you do something weird like
Well, the Nativity of the Blessed Mother, we always get Chinese takeout because I'm a Jewish convert, and I always say, "What does a Jewish mother want for her birthday? She wants Chinese takeout." So that is our family tradition. Um,
I love it.
but I mean, the kids really look forward to that feast day for sure.
but there
Yeah.
there are plenty of resources out there for people to just to go through the whole year. I mean, Halloween even, that people
Oh,
don't
Halloween's a big one, yeah.
realize was a Catholic holiday originally, so
Yeah.
there's almost everything you can Catholicize like that, and that's even before the homeschooling starts.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I would add too that this is a place where there's a question a while back about fathers and their contribution, and often fathers are having to work. So first of all, I think we need to recognize that the father working to support his family is part of it's a spiritual work, not just a financial work. So it's a spiritual work to support his family, and to recognize that and cherish it and celebrate that. Especially mothers who are home, remind your children to respect and honor their father because of it. But so much of this is example. So daily mass. Do your children see their father praying? Or is it just a thing mommy does? That's huge. Children seeing their father read the Bible go, Bible's something to be read. Or religious books, or being able to talk to him about religious things. And fathers, even if you don't know the answer, being able to say, I don't know the answer, but let's find that out. Teaches your children that they can find answers when they have theological questions, because they're going to, no matter how well we train them. I mean, hopefully they will. Hopefully they will, because I mean, they're still pursuing deeper understanding and a deeper relationship with God. But that's a great opportunity for men to stand up and show that it is real men have a deep relationship with Jesus. That speaks volumes, not just to your sons, to your daughters as well.
Jamie, is the wall calendars you're mentioning, is it this one from Sophia? I love those.
I think so. I was just
I
about to
was
try to
just-
Google it.
Yeah, I was just going to add that, you also have said all the things I would say about religion and teaching theology specifically. Some years we use textbooks, some years we don't, some years we use just read aloud, whatever. I think this question is the same question we ask about a lot of things. How do you get to it all, right? Because as homeschoolers, we have the freedom and the flexibility to teach what mostly within some boundaries, whatever we want. And it's so much and it's so overwhelming. And we have to be at peace with just knowing, just like the whole cleaning the house thing, we're never going to teach them everything. It's impossible. So we pick what we think they need right now, and we do our best with that. Let God do the rest. And if that means this child needs a theology book, or this child needs to celebrate, all the feast days, and the family needs to go to daily mass or not, or pray together at a certain time, or, however that works, I think that's part of the discernment of just trusting that today we're going to pick what we feel is best. And God gave us these kids, so we know what we're doing, because he wouldn't have given them to you if not. And so to kind of help minimize that overwhelm and that worry of like, but what if we miss something, or what if we don't do the right thing? I mean, all of us missed something in our education, and we're competent adults, I think. I mean, right? So there's going to be gaps. There's going to be things, but when they come up, we fill them. And when we recognize them, we decide on the next best thing. So it is kind of a constant, even now after 18 years, it's still a constant, like, okay, well, what do my kids need this year? And figuring that out a little bit. Even if you use a set curriculum, you're still, doing this to kind of tweak it and make it work for you.
Yeah.
Right. And Jenny, I want to add too that there's a tendency in when we teach to, we're imparting knowledge to you, and here, download all this stuff we're giving you. And I've found that one of the most powerful things that I just do by accident sometimes is give the kids a sense of mystery about education. And my daughter's interested in the Greek language, so I was telling her about, oh, there's Greek, and then before there's Greek, there's a linear B script that used to be written in, and I showed her, and then there's this linear A, and she's like, well, what's linear A? I'm like, well, nobody knows. We haven't been able to translate it. And like all of a sudden, she comes up to me one day, and she's like, I'm gonna translate linear A when I'm older. And like just to impart that there's this big wide world out there that as many people have been working on all of these problems. There's a lot of things we still don't know, and attack it and give it your best shot.
And homeschooling definitely allows them the flexibility, the crazy weird things that dad brings up when he gets home from work, which is
Well,
basically
yeah,
his job in our
I-
homeschool. Right.
Yeah.
I was going to say that is something that we really emphasize in our approach to homeschooling, is that we let our kids' natural curiosity be the momentum that carries them through a subject. And so it might be that if we're following the letter of the curriculum, they're supposed to study it from this point to this point, then they move on to the next item. And the way that we have approached this is
In
that
some subjects.
if our kid is really
You gotta do
interested in it,
fractions.
they want to do deep dives and they want to eat, breathe, and sleep it for a short period of time, just let them go. Let their own natural curiosity just let them hoover in all that information, and they're going to get more out of it that way than interrupting their natural curiosity and trying to force them to shift gears. We can get to that other stuff later. It doesn't have to be on a set timetable, but if they've got the energy and the drive to pursue one topic in depth, then just let them go. Let them go.
And I'd add to that the fact that the other day, our eldest said something about, well, I'm behind in, or I'm bad at. And I said, hold the phone. According
Yeah.
to whom? According to,
Exactly. Yes.
hey, guess what? It's summer. Mommy isn't teaching right now. There are recorded courses on Homeschool Connections on this topic. Get some popcorn. Let's watch a lecture. I don't care if you take notes. Let's watch a lecture for fun. And the girls were all over it. I said, you feel that there's a gap? Let's start filling it. There's nobody. I mean, unless it were me, and it's not, standing over you going, you're behind in, you're behind in. I don't live like that. I refuse to
Yeah.
live like that. That's one of the reasons I homeschool, is so that I don't have to live like that. So that you can regain your joy, because even as a homeschooling mom, even though I was very well homeschooled, I went on to college and got degrees, and there are gaps. How cool as a mom, I get to fill them alongside my children. Makes me so excited when they get into a subject that I say, oh, I'm very skilled in this, we're very informed in this, let's go deep together. That's one of the joys. It's just so many opportunities, but they have to be looked at rightly, not as a I'm not living up to some, I don't know, quasi mystical list of what I should have achieved at this age. I mean, you're 13. Really?
So just as an example to what you're speaking to, Eleanor, we have a teacher, Christopher Martin, who got his PhD in history from the Claremont Institute, and or Claremont, I think it's maybe it's university anyway. But he said, look, I got my PhD in history and I love history, but I stunk in math. I was not good at math when I was I was terrible at it. But here he is having his PhD. So it's kind of one of those things where if you feed the love of learning to the student, it actually goes a long way. And for us to presuppose that they're going to be good at everything or try to make them good at everything, it's kind of a rabbit hole. I can't think of any. I know there are subjects that I stink at, chemistry being one of them, that I'll never be good at. But if you feed that love of learning for your student, they'll learn a lot of other things along the way, not just history, but they'll learn about languages, they'll learn about geography and so on and so forth. That has a role in their learning going forward. So anyway, we have a lot of other questions to get to. So let's see if we can get to them as best we can. So this person's asking, they just finished their first year of homeschooling. Is there an online co-op? I think I know of one. Last year, we moved to a country where homeschooling means the teachers are tutors and not the parents. Haven't found a group yet where homeschooling parents meet up or anything. All right, so I can recommend one. But maybe there's others out there that one person. I think maybe some people are offering some suggestions. Homeschool Connections is basically an online co-op. You pick and choose your classes, what you want to fill in the gaps for. Really wonderful teachers that we're seeing here with Sam and Eleanor as an examples. Jamie, you've taught for us too, right? So I think, or you're going to be teaching?
Not taught for Homeschool Connections.
Yeah.
I was a teacher in a former life.
Yeah. So, but you soon will, I'm sure. So we're just waiting for that day. But anyway, but yeah, anyway, the point being is that that's one example. I know there are online institutions. We kind of treat it like an online co-op in the sense that you can pick and choose a la carte your courses. So it makes that online co-op experience a reality. But yeah, I mean, and there is a community that goes with it. We have a parent community that's there, not only on Facebook, but in a private group that has about 2,900 parents in there that you could lean on. I'm sure there's others. So if anyone wants to weigh in on that from the panel, or even any for those that are attending, feel free to throw out your example, your suggestions there too.
So I will say my teens absolutely love the student cafe through Homeschool Connections. They have meet in person. And like my daughter is in a pro-life group through Homeschool Connections, and I think she has like an off like she's the editor of their newsletter or something. I don't even know half the time, but it keeps them very busy. And just the flip side of the co-op coin is we are a non-co-op. Like we have never joined a co-op, have no interest in ever joining a co-op. And I personally feel like co-ops can be overrated. There's often a lot of drama involved. And part of the reason I homeschool is like I don't want to deal with other people's problems and their kids with problems. Like I didn't enjoy that when I was teaching myself in public school. And my kids are all socially well adjusted. They all have friends. They are all smart and function. And so if anybody wants to talk to me about why I don't like co-ops, feel free. But and I know I'm in the minority, but there's just another view to the whole co-op thing.
I'm not in co-ops either, Jenny.
I don't do
I'm
co-ops.
spoiled. I'm spoiled. We have a wonderful, vibrant parish. I'm also, as I said, a graduate homeschooler, and there were 35 grandchildren, and almost all of us were homeschooled, and almost all of us homeschool. So sort of a familial support system, but we have friends in our community, some of whom homeschool, some of whom don't, and it's plenty for us without the rigor, without being signed up to go a bunch of places every week. But I just
it's too much. We try not to leave the house if possible. Like that is really a major goal for us.
Yeah, I think that the key thing to think about with co-ops, whether it's online or in person, or parents getting together or kids getting together, and I saw a comment about online socials for kids and things like that, is what is your purpose in doing that? Like Jamie said, it's not necessary. You don't have to do it. But what is the purpose? If you want classes for your kids on topics that you can't teach, maybe that's something that either an in-person or an online option like Homeschool Connections has to offer. On the curriculum list that I linked in the chat, there's a section on all of the online Catholic homeschool options, but also a lot of the other programs like were mentioned, Colby and Mother Divine Grace and things, they have online classes for the kids too. So they create a little community in that regard. I know Seton has a thing that's similar to the Student Cafe at Homeschool Connections where kids can connect online and so forth. But I think the key is thinking, what is my purpose here? Is my purpose to make friends for my kids? Is my purpose to give them the academic? And where's the best format for that? I know we did co-ops every time we moved to a new area because we moved around a lot so that we could meet new people there socially. But as soon as we made friends, we backed out and got together with people for the social aspect. Because as some of you have mentioned, the reality of a co-op is that it's a classroom. And if we're homeschooling, some of us are homeschooling to avoid some of that classroom stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, online Homeschool Connections is great. There's lots of other options out there and ways to make connections.
Also,
Yeah, and
I
you
feel
gotta
like
find the right one for your family.
I also feel like we should say that friends outside of the school paradigm, the brick and mortar school paradigm, it's going to look different. Until I was in my 30s, most of my friends were younger or significantly older than I was, just because everybody else who was my age had sort of been indoctrinated in the same way and couldn't socialize. So it made them boring. So our children have a lot of friends, some of whom are their age, but they also interact with people of all ages and are friends with each other, which, if, as my mother always said, if she could make us friends with each other as siblings, we could be friends with anybody. It's extremely difficult to push your buttons. But no, try to find a support community, and it may be online, it might be in person. If you can at your parish, just know that the expectations, say, of those grandparents I keep saying, and I'm sorry, it's hard to have non-support from anyone, it's for your homeschooling, but know that the friend base for your children just may look radically different, but they'll still be happy.
And your concept of what constitutes good socialization doesn't have to be what the dominant American culture thinks that it is. So when I look at people who tend to choose the co-op option, just from my own past experience, because I actually taught classes for a co-op for some years, about a decade ago, I saw that there were sort of two groups that I noticed. One were parents that were uncomfortable completely going solo and developing and maintaining a homeschool curriculum. And they needed to see how other people were doing it and to get that as a kind of reference point so that they knew that they were doing sort of the right thing. And I think that's for people that are sort of uncomfortable implementing and being their own, homeschool, superintendent, as it were. And then I also saw another contingent of people who seemed to put a lot of stock in the standard caricature of homeschoolers as not being well socialized. And they figured that the way to do that is we need to immerse them in an environment where they're around other people in their age group. And I think just to dovetail back to what Walter and some others brought up earlier, is that one of the strong points of homeschoolers is that they're capable of having conversations with adults, like adults, in a mature fashion. And the model of socialization that I was brought up in was that the public school, where you're in an age-segregated environment and you learn to emulate the behaviors of the dominant and strong personalities in that age group. And what I saw was not an incentive to anything that we would call a socially desirable trait in adulthood. I'll just be perfectly frank. So if that's what someone alleges that we are missing through homeschooling, then I'm happy to miss it because I don't think we ever needed it in the first place.
Very good. Excellent. All right. If we can, let's move on. We got 17 minutes left. So lots of questions that are coming in, and you can see lots of input. By the way, I love the fact that the chat is so active. Everyone's trying to help each other out. So that's really, really cool. I thank you guys for doing that. That's neat. It's a great way to help each other. All right. So Maggie's asking, we're thinking about homeschool, or thinking we will homeschool, seeking a curriculum that helps grow their Catholic faith and is rigorous. Can you share a few curriculum, or one or a few curriculums to start looking into this? So Jenny, I think you just said you posted something, right? That helps.
I posted my list. Yeah.
Perfect. All right. We'll consider that question answered. Okay, cool. Excellent. Hopefully that helps Maggie in your search. There's a lot of great resources out there, more so than when Eleanor was being homeschooled. so very good. All right. What do you recommend for a family to do to transition everyone, not just the kids, into homeschooling? We aren't coming in or starting with small children. Our boys have been in public school since preschool until this year. Now they're third and fourth. I'm certainly not used to having all my kids home at the same time for that long of time during the day. I will tell you that you will find, at least I hope you will find, that the kids will build a collegiality that you never saw before. I think that's one of the great things about our family is that we are together. I don't mean that we don't fight. We do fight, but I think that's one of the greatest blessings of homeschooling is the fellowship that the kids develop amongst each other. But anyway, I will leave that to you guys. What do y'all think?
When my mom pulled this out, we were in Catholic school. I was rising third. And my eldest brother would have been seventh, and there was fifth, me, then the younger ones, they all were homeschooled, start to finish. At first, she started out with a schedule. We had a schedule of what subjects you did each day. She mapped it all out. She used a very heavy Seton component. I still use a lot of the Seton textbooks because they're so pretty. Just really lovely. I actually use a lot of her curricula. But she did plan it out as a 4-day, a very concrete plan. Most of the schoolwork was done in the morning. She was able, by the time we hit high school, to be a lot more organic in the way that she did it because she had the experience. But just starting out, give yourself the structure that, at least for, say, a morning session, you will do skill set subjects, you will do math, you will do handwriting, you will do, these are the things you're going to do every single day. And then twice a week, you're going to do a content subject like science or history, and then have academics bleed into your everyday life. So recognize that you can have audiobooks. Make a list of audiobooks and say, throughout the week, I want you to listen to these. You're building Lego, turn on an audiobook. So you sort of seamlessly work in all these other elements after having done your hard work in the morning. That will give you a sense that you're accomplishing things, that you have a structure and a routine to help you. But just know that what's happening beyond that, not just the collegiality that Walter mentioned, but just the seamless all day, every day learning from, avenues you didn't expect. That's just going to be overwhelming. And you'll look back after your first year and go, wow, now what do I want to do next year?
I will add that there's kind of traditional wisdom, conventional wisdom, whatever you would call it, with when kids come home from a brick and mortar school environment, that there needs to be a season of deschooling, is what we call it. And I think that the timeline I've heard is for every year they were in a brick and mortar school, you need a month of transition time. So establish some realistic expectations for yourself that it's going to take time for you to find your rhythm and to do all the things that Eleanor just shared, which are beautiful. But during that transition time, I agree, light, not a full 5-day week. Keep it as light as you can while doing the essentials. Take advantage of the exciting beauty that is homeschooling. So just take one day off for no good reason and go to the park or go to the museum or the zoo. Like, do all the things that make homeschooling awesome in those first few months so that you can all rejoice in the, what you've decided. And the bonding that happens between siblings, they're going to fight. Right, in the environment. We want to say that's a collegial, it's wonderful, and we all work together. But when they're going to fight and they're going to do that, but they're bonding at the same time, and it's how they're going to figure out how to work with one another. And so that's my tip, is just make sure you give yourself plenty of time. If your kids are in 4th grade, then that's going to be 4 years, maybe 5, or 4 months, maybe 5, of like really getting used to one another and figuring out that routine. Don't expect it to happen within the first 2 weeks.
Yeah, I like, while we have never transitioned because we've always been doing it, one of the things I try to do as a dad is to take the kids out, like on a lunch or coffee or something like that, while all their other friends are in school and doing their thing. We have a conversation, we have a chance to connect. And individually, it helps me with helping my wife with homeschooling and helping me when I homeschool them, because I'll do that from time to time as well. But it's a great way to get buy-in, right? To get buy-in. We're doing this for what we think is the best path for you, and explain to them what's going to happen and how this is going to be a really good opportunity, and give it a try. Don't close the door in case they're reticent. It's things like that that go a long way with trying to get in. All right, maybe it's not going to be so bad. Let me show you. Here's some chance. And come to the table when you do that. Come to the table with, all right, here's some things I had in mind for you. What do you think about this? What do you think about trying to these things as we kind of get into this homeschooling rhythm idea? That could help too. Just do it individually, kind of as an adult to another almost young adult or even a little kid. I do this with my younger ones too, and they get a kick out of it. They love doing that sort of thing. That could be really advantageous too.
Definitely. I think that the idea that seeking their input, obviously we're still the parents, we make the decisions, but seeking their input from a young age all the way on up is how you build those close relationships.
Yeah. All right, so we'll get this question. I think everyone's going to have a response to this one. So weigh in. I've heard this phrase, quote unquote, "Why do you do it?" end quote, quite a bit. Can someone please share with how they came to their why. Why do they do it? What's the core reason for you homeschooling? And maybe, and if you can, personalize it. I would say, if you have a personal story or something like that, that would kind of create some sort of, I don't know, just because I think we all are the general reasons for building our children up for the glory of God. I think all of us can agree on that. But maybe do a deeper dive on that if you can.
There was a specific mom when my kids were very young, on their soccer team, and she would, every time I spoke to her, would ask, like, why do you homeschool? Like, you're nuts, is basically what she was saying. And eventually I was like, why do you send your kids to school? Because, and the point is that she probably never gave it any thought, where if you are thinking about homeschooling your kids, like, most likely you've given it a lot of thought, in comparison. And now, whenever and it's very rare now, I mean, homeschooling is so much more common. Everybody knows a homeschooler now. I feel when we were just starting, it was not as much, and I'm sure even the further back you go, the more that's the case. So people don't ask me that much anymore, but I legit say, why do you send your kids to school? As for why we do homeschool, all the reasons, like truly Catholic education, all the things that are reasons why all of us do. But my first child also is like profoundly gifted. He was he taught himself to read at 3, and then it just but also he was really shy. Like, it was a problem. I mean, that we worked on it, and he's 17 now. You would never know it was a problem. And that's the beauty of homeschooling too, is that we were able to work on this social skill with him at his own pace. And it really was a beautiful thing as time went on. But yeah, it kind of got to the point where there's no way a school would be able to serve his needs in terms of what he needed emotionally, because he was so very shy, and academically because by 4 years old, he was doing multiplication and reading chapter books. So, I was at many points in his education. He's the one who's graduating, going to college. He graduated at 17, got into college at 16. So, yeah, many times I've been like, I'm not even sure what to do with this kid a lot. Homeschool Connections was very helpful. And they're not even paying me to say that, like, legit, they were very helpful. But that was the why. He was just, I don't even know like what they would do with him at school. And then it just seemed ridiculous to even consider sending him. And then we had more kids, and I mean, they're all smart, but he's weird. And so yeah, that was our reason.
And just to add, I had to unlearn so much of what I learned, even in really good schools, that I was like, I'm not doing that with my kids. They're learning the good stuff, the best stuff we can give them from the get-go, and then that's it.
Right. I should say I went to public school, but his parents sent him to like fancy Catholic prep schools and stuff. And then, he lost his faith, had to find his faith again as an adult, like young adult, before we met. But we didn't want that to happen. Or, obviously it could happen still, but we wanted an authentically Catholic education.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say I'd say 3 reasons. I mean, for me, it was non-negotiable. I love being homeschooled, so I was going to do it. But I'd say the 3 primary reasons. First is absolute confidence that we can do as well, and honestly, much better than any academic opportunity we can afford outside the home. The second is that we want to assist our children as they encounter the culture and help them negotiate it and teach them, to an extent, protect them from it, but also recognize that we don't want them to grow up in a cave. We want to equip them to engage the culture, and we think we can do that better with them, with us all the time. But the third reason is that, honestly, we love it. We love the lifestyle. It's a complete lifestyle. And yes, I think it's been mentioned, there are days that are terrible. There are academic encounters that are wretched, but overall, it is a very joy-filled life. Would you add to that? Because Sam's actually he is not from a homeschooling background at all.
No, I went to public school, and one of my most vivid memories of public school is waking up every day with this sick feeling in the pit of my stomach, knowing what was ahead of me for the next 8 hours. And I did not want to subject my kids to that. And it wasn't all bad. I don't want to just say that I got absolutely nothing good out of public schooling, but on the whole, I had to unlearn a lot of things. And it took a lot of time to sort things through. And I just have recognized that there just simply has to be a better way. And I know that one of the retorts that you had earlier, Jamie, is you said, well, why do you send your kids to school? And I always press on that and I say, why do you need 8 hours a day in order to educate a child? I know why, because a work day is 8 hours and you need 100% participation in the labor force, at least, potentially. So you have a work day that corresponds to a school day. And much of what I did when I was in public school was things such as standing in line, sitting in an empty study hall, walking around in a recess area. And when you add up, how much time was away from the home versus how much time was actually spent learning stuff, it probably comes out in terms of cash value about what we do in a 4-hour homeschool session. And not only that, but we are also engaged in our kids' life, and we are getting to form them along with our parish community. And we have this holistic way of approaching life that doesn't involve institutionalization. And to my mind, it's just the optimal environment for a child to grow and flourish in. And I would not exchange it for anything. And I know that this is kind of a trite answer, but it's important to me to just mention it, is that I know that when I face judgment, God's going to ask me what I did as far as raising my kids in the faith, and I can't in good conscience say, yeah, well, I just sit in the public school and hope for the best. I do not want to face my maker on at my particular judgment having given that answer.
This isn't great. Go ahead, Jenny. You want to add to that?
Sure. I mean, God made me. I don't know. It was definitely an inspiration. I had no experience with homeschooling until I was first married. And then we had exposure to various families that were homeschooling. And at the time, we thought it was just interesting. And then as time went on, I really feel like it was a call on my heart. I really feel like God said in different ways, you should consider this. This is something that your family might need. And this is something that's doable, that's possible. And it really was when we were wrestling with that first child. Do we put her in school? Do we keep her home? And that whole kind of prayer discernment time where I realized that at that time, the motivation was the relationship that I had with my kids. And I didn't want to lose the relationship. And we definitely had, oldest girl, like mom kind of beating, battering heads back and forth. And, but I knew that I wanted to work on that relationship. I wanted to nurture that relationship, and I needed time to do that with her. And so it kind of began that way. I have a joking answer too, like Jamie says, when people ask me that and I don't want to give them the whole long story, I say I was a public school teacher. Full stop.
That's what I did. Yeah.
I was.
I taught in school. That was when I decided. Exactly.
Yeah. But I really do feel like God's led us on this journey, and looking back, the reasons why we homeschool now are so much richer and so much broader. And I definitely feel that if I went back to that moment and know what I know now, one of the reasons would be I get to tailor the child's education to the child's needs, because we have a variety of needs in my family. And I get to do what works for each child individually and for our family as a whole, so that they can truly thrive and grow into the person who God created them to be. So we work on their areas of struggle. We build on their strengths. And a classroom environment cannot do that for every single child, but I can here at home. And I love that. And I love getting to know these remarkable people who God created and gave to our family, and figure out who they are and what role, they will play in this world to glorify him.
I was going to ask a follow-up question. What are your last thoughts, your parting thoughts before we call this panel discussion to a close? But I think we did a pretty good job of that with the why question. I mean, if there's any one walk away that if you could pull from this conversation, it's the whys that you heard just a moment ago. It kind of encapsulates the most important part of homeschooling, and the panelists were offering that. I think it's fantastic. So it is right at a quarter of the hour. So I just want to say thank you, panelists, for being here. Thank you for your time. I think that, we had over 250 people here learning from each other and exchanging ideas and hearing from you. I think it's so amazing to see the value behind all that. So it's really, really cool. You can see the applauds, the hearts and whatnot coming through. So I think that there's a lot of value in what you had to offer. So thank you again for taking time out of your day, your homeschooling efforts, and sharing a little bit of that knowledge with the folks that are here. So really appreciate it. Are there any? I sense there might be someone else want to say something. Is there anything else you want to say, Sam? Or you want to say anything? Okay.
No.
All right.
Thank you.
Very good.
And
Well,
just,
thank
I
you.
will add, I will, all those parents who, the ones who've expressed struggle, know we're praying for you and pray for all of us, because we need it. And
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah. And Jamie's left her email address in there. So be careful what you wish for, Jamie. But, but
Bring it.
there you have it. She's a wonderful resource and really, really great stuff. All right. So in 15 minutes, we'll conclude our conference. We'll start the conclusion of our conference with Erica Ahern of the Catholic Loop. Don't go anywhere. She is awesome. And we're so thankful to have her part of it. She's with the Catholic Vote and a homeschooler herself. So why don't we'll take about 15 minutes before, actually about 10, like I said earlier, we'll do our introduction to our sponsors and we'll transition to her talk. So give about 10 more minutes, come back, and we'll see you soon. So thank you very much, everybody.
Take care.
Thanks, panelists. You guys are awesome.
Thank you.